All right, we got ourselves a project, and somebody wants a special mantle above their fireplace. Their flooring in there kind of looks like rustic old barn wood, so they have this rustic old 100-plus-year-old beam from our barn that I've been sitting on and wanting to use for something. And you can see those big, deep saw marks from it was rough sawn in the sawmill. It's usually a sign that this thing was cut with steam-powered gigantic saw blades. And also it tips me off that this is old wood. This would be towards the core. You can see all the rings coming out. This is just a portion of a gigantic tree that must have been 100 or more years old when they cut it. So this piece of wood could be a couple hundred years old, and a great story piece for above their fireplace, a great mantle. So what we want to do is we want to keep some of these chatter marks. So I started sanding a little bit, and check this out. We left some of those chatter marks because that is really one of the things that makes it cool. If we took all those marks out, then it would just look like any ordinary piece of wood that you can buy. So we're going to keep those. That'd be the top of it, and then the front you can see developing. So we got some more sanding to do on this beast. Then we'll put some clear coat finish on it and see what it looks like. Come along, to be fun. You know what, our next step is we have another chunk of this same kind of wood is to make support or corbels that go under either end of this mantle. So let's see how this works out. There's a fine line when working with this old stuff between too rough and too smooth. So for here we want a lot of the characteristics of those old saw blades, a lot of the knots where the wood's cracking, old nail holes. We want all that, but we also want, if somebody runs their hand along it, that nobody gets any slivers. So find that fine line, don't take it too far. This is one of a kind. There's others like it you can search around and look for that can be very expensive, but they all are unique in themselves. Whenever I work with one of a kind pieces of wood, I like to make sure there's plenty of length here. So even though we may need about 6 feet, I have 8 feet of length here. You can see on the very end of it there's some imperfections. Thankfully that's the back side. The other 3 sides, the top, front, and bottom, what we need, all look pretty good. So it doesn't take much sanding. This one I hit with the orbital sander at about 120 grit just to knock down some of the dirt that's on there from all these years, but also to keep that character, because once it's coated it's on there forever, and that's the look that we're looking for. So I also cut an end off this thing, the bad end, so I can give the clients an idea of what the finished product would look like, and I got the okay so we can continue. Now I got to make some corbels which hold it up. This is going to be interesting because I got to invent this as I go. So we'll look at this other beam that I found. It's kind of unfortunate that it has this part of the tree on it, just the outside edge of the tree. When they cut it out of the gigantic tree, it kind of gives you an idea how big that tree must have been. So to make corbels, or the supports under the mantle, I have to find usable space, and then where my cut is, I got to try to mimic some of those saw lines. I might be able to do that with a dull chainsaw. We'll see. So for me, I would just go along and check what the narrow width. I'd like to have 2 feet of this length, and at that 2 foot mark is 3.5 inches. That might be okay. I don't want it to look too small next to the really big, cool looking beam. So we have plenty of this one. I'm alright to sacrifice some of it to try to get our pattern. See how that goes. Alright, so I'm going to pick, I want 2 feet of this, so I'll go a little bit more. I want to see what the width of this spot is at that mark, about 3.5. So I'll start down here at 3.5. So I'll start down here at 3.5. And get a line all the way down. wherever my mark is. Okay, 3.5. It's gonna be pretty straight, but you're mimicking this edge, so it's pretty straight, I can see, and I really like the width of that. So I'm gonna flip this over, transfer the line, then we'll cut it out. All right, I'm gonna do this cut on both sides with a circular saw because I want as straight a line as possible. Then I'll touch that edge up after we cut it out to see if I need to cut in my own saw marks to mimic the sawmill marks. And it definitely smells like oak, like a fine wine stored in ancient oak barrels. All right, same thing on this side. Cut this line with the circular saw. Now here's a trick. When you're cutting this old growth oak, it's so hard that if I cut off the little chunks and then tried to cut any radiuses or anything on it, it would be so difficult because the wood's so hard. So I'm just gonna notch out the piece that I need and leave it connected to this big, heavy, solid piece of wood that I have, and then I can see if I can cut out the designs that way. Learned that throughout the years. Also because we really don't have a workshop set up here with band saws and special sanders. This is all, you know, simplified tools that most people have laying around to get elegant stuff out of. All right, so I'm going to cut this little chunk off the top, and then we're going to see what we got. All right, we're going to finish the cut with the Sawzall. We're going to finish this cut with a Sawzall also. The piece that we cut off we're going to save. Project wood for some other day. But now we have some saw blades. It's a little bit uneven, so I'm going to take the chainsaw and see if I can mimic some of these saw blades. And trying to do it safely also. Come on, man. Come on, man. Always check the gas, right? She's out of gas. Ain't got no gas in it. All right, now we're prepared, huh? All right. I'm going to do this flat down like this just so I can see what's happening with the grain. I should be able to level that out and still give us that look. Also, I did not put a bunch of bar oil in here because I don't want oil shooting all over this. Just a little bit in there to lubricate it because the wood is tough. Let's see if we can do this now that we have fuel. Come on, baby. There, I wanted to mimic that look, the same direction, everything. A couple of gouges are good. Trying to match, you know, this other side. See that? It's rough. And now we got a rough. I'm trying to keep it going in that same direction. Maybe just a little more. Like I said, you got to know when to stop. Know when to stop. All right, I'm going to call that. We'll hit the sander on that when we hit the other sides, and it should look nice. We can always hide this side away from where everybody looks. And I'll show you what that means when we get there. Okay, we hit that with some 220. Not too much. You just want to be able to have a little grain on the shadow side. This should be nice. Okay, let's draw out our corbels. We're kind of limited here because we don't have all those tools, but then again, the whole idea is to try to craft something with the tools or similar tools that they had back when this wood was cut. So it's not going to be super intricate on purpose because we want it to look like it's been there for that long. Even though you'll see this video and go, it's not been there this long. That's our goal, right? Get a thumbs up? Yeah. Next, we want to just kind of verify what length we have. We have 26 inches in a corbel in order to hold it up and also to not look too gaudy. Probably 10 inches. Now that we have a manageable piece of this old rough wood, we can go a little bit larger because we can cut it off on our chop saw. Like this one, I'll make 10 also, but just for reference. You'll notice, again, I got the whole beam intact because it gives me stability in order to cut these radiuses out for the corbel. So wish me luck. Hopefully it works out. All right, so I decided upon this style of corbel. You can see with my finger, it kind of comes around and that's the top. I wanted a longer spot right here so we can get some fasteners in. Let's see if we can cut that out. Saving grace here is that this wood is quite a bit thinner than the original chunk. So I'm going to hit it with the circular saw, but also the Sawzall. See what we got. Again, because we don't have the technology, and they really didn't back in the day, unless they were super sophisticated, just keeping these simple supports, especially with the old wood, because I don't want any pieces breaking off after going through this effort. Let's hit it with the circular saw first. I don't have a drum sander or one that's like a cylindrical up and down thing. That would be great for finishing that. So before you comment that it'd be a great idea, I'd just go ahead and agree with you. There. We're going to save that. Never know. All right, now. We'll keep working at this and we'll get right back. Yeah, I think that's it. Use the chainsaw. Don't do this if you're not used to using chainsaws. You get hurt. Okay, now we're going to hit it with that sander a little bit. See if we can dial it in, but not too much. It can't look 100% perfect. Yeah, man. Look at that. All right, I'm going to just hit this radius right here with some hand sandpaper since I don't have a fancy sander. But look at that. We're onto something. Touch that up. Plus these gouges and grooves help match the face of it. That's our goal. All right, now one of the things that I'm a little bit concerned about, let's just fit and finish at the end, is the spots that we cut might be lighter than the existing wood, you know, like right here along the side. So I grabbed the board with some dust from that loft area, and I'm going to see if I can rub some color into this spot. This is a top secret trick. Let's see if it works. See, we got a board from right up there. We're going to Put some dust on there. Put some dust on this spot. And we're gonna rub it in. Just right there. Just a little bit discoloration. That's what we're looking for. All right, so we have anchor bolts that are gonna end up going through here. 2 of them. They're gonna drill to the very center here. Notice, again, it's all still connected to this other large beam, so we can cut and work and drill. We'll be cutting it soon. But we need to think about fillers for these. And my mind goes back to the whole idea of the way, especially this old barn that this came out of was built with the wood pegs. Let's go see if we can find a couple wood pegs that we can fill our holes with. Come on, let's go. See what I'm talking about. See the old beam stuff and those wooden pegs sticking out? Wouldn't that be a cool effect? Whether they're cut flush, sticking out a little bit. Those look pretty important. I won't take those off, but that's what I'm looking for. If I have to, I'll go in the big barn and look for some. As I look around here, I see all size of pegs everywhere. They want to take out anything that's structural. I even thought about making my own pegs, which I can. It looks quite simple. Get me in touch with that inner 1880s. But I see plenty even on the other side of the barn over there. I might take my buddy Stanley. Have you met Stanley? And just nip off ends. And I need them, the circumference needs to be smaller for what we want to do there, because there's a lot of big ones here. But as long as I'm going to cut something off, I don't want to do it either here in my training area where you can see it, because I like that look. So I'm going to go over in the decrepit part of the barn, climb up there and cut off a few chunks. All right, I found some selections over there that I can work with. I'll show you how those fit up later in the video. Yep, and next we want to drill holes where our plugs supports. Okay, next up we want to drill where our supports are going to go. So we're going to go right here in the center. I'm going to go right here. Then I will drill holes down maybe a 1/2 inch. It all depends on how much I want to stick out where these holes are, and those will be our plugs, and they'll set out a little bit. So that's the next step. Look for a drill bit that will accommodate that. Okay, I drilled some recessed holes, and then that's where the plugs come in. Once it's up on the wall, then I'll shave these a little bit so they fit perfectly into each one of the holes, so that we have that look just like it was in the barn. Okay, now we can cut these off. So the supports then, their corbels, go underneath here. Just like that. But I'm gonna shorten this up a little bit so there's a reveal right here. Sand them down a little bit, make them better, but we're getting there. I believe we're at a point where we can spray a finish on. Now I'm gonna spray a finish on instead of brushing or rubbing, just because all the little spots that cloth could snag to. See what it looks like with an aerosol coating. See, that's gonna look super cool. All right, you can see the corbels are set with the wedge anchors through the brick and the block that's behind it. So there it is, a piece of American history. Notice the pegs, part of the design. Cover our anchor bolts. Very nice.